if they appreciated nature, accepted nature, and they wouldn't be doing wars. But they don't accept each other's nature, and they don't accept the nature of their world. So they throw bombs and crazy things at each other. And it's not even intelligent. If they were an extraterrestrial race, they would care even more about their environment, and even more about each other's existence and the sustaining of their own species. So, like intergalactic wars, for example, and things like that, they'll never make it, they'll just be eliminated. And it is their true belief that the Anunnaki and the alteration and the extraterrestrials are on their side, and that they will, terrorize the apocalypse and create these situations. But they don't realize that they are still in this form, and they have lost their sense of humility and respect for themselves, each other, and the earth. And no extraterrestrial is going to respect them, having that the extraterrestrial has already learned that that is a survival technique of higher intelligent beings throughout time and space. And that wars really should be conducted in a more intelligent design, rather than trying to destroy your planet, like, say, genetic warfare or biochemical warfare, something a little bit less threatening to the bigger picture, because that's why, hence, extraterrestrials there. And so they really haven't put that shit together. That's part of the spiritual battle we're all in right now, and that it's really a matter of your philosophical beliefs, I guess you could say, to see where you will come through. And you have to, some of the biggest things is like being patient, and prudent and diligent and courageous and kind, because you need to keep your heart open and your quantum connection open, and your understanding at peak flexibility and awareness, because that is kind of what causes the understanding of self-realization, and to be able to self-actualize and be able to respond to circumstances appropriately to continue your sense of stability or your sense of wealth. And they don't really want you to have that. They don't want you to have the options and the freedom and the liberty. So they have ingrained policies and productive social engineering and control, like literal control, and laws and stuff, to prevent you from ever getting to that point of self-organization and manifestation with each other. And that is sad. It's super freaking sad. So this world having to end kind of will end the negative or the bad guys in a real fucked up place. And it will take all of the people who have tried or learned what they could and done what they could and put them in the place where they have thus so chosen individually to have worked on, understood, and become. Which is why working with the earth is so important, because it really does allow you an understanding of the world around you, and in turn, self-reflection of yourself. Saying that you are part of the biochemistry, you're part of like this chain of living organisms, and your understanding of that chain helps you understand the cognation of the greater cosmos. And it's important to ground yourself in simple practices of self-awareness and self-manifestation as a creative being, because then interdimensionally you can reach out and touch faith, and it gives you that space, it gives you that room, it gives you that mindfulness, operating in certain brain frequencies. One of the concerns is that these rich people have really taken over the employment system, that the entire employment system is now currently being exposed as having been rigged. It is completely rigged. And I think about all the experiences I had with the Western medical system and how I believe that that is fucking rigged. And the education system as well. All these systems are outdated. They are being controlled by forces and powers, lobbyists, taxpaying, investors. Standards need to be completely rewritten. Structure and organization completely rewritten. And if they are not, and there's not a sense of like entrepreneurial moving forward, the best of humanity, they are going to try to always present themselves that way, but it's really when you hear the stories from the people who have engaged and participated to see if they're being holistic, if they're considering the humane factors, and they're not, and they'll work you to death. You will stand for too long, doing that for too long, for too many days. You'll have pain. They will make money off of your pain, and it's just an endless cycle of a kind of commerce that they've built, and they depend on that, and they look at each other as having built that and having built it together with the same philosophical belief that this is the end, and then they'd rather have their wealth. They're completely consumed by the idea of consumption and greed. There is no redeeming them, but you can redeem yourself, and just don't work for a job that has the questions be, will you stand for a long time? You know what I mean? Like, no, I will not, because that will cause all kinds of back pain and suffering. I will not stand. I will sit occasionally, and bitch, I don't give a fuck. You know, like, and if you get fired for that reason, then you really should consider maybe a different job, because they are not on your side. They do not care. There's no unionization and accommodation and understanding of the human body. This is enslavement. You're not being paid enough. They're leveraging and making huge wealth off of you just being a part of their company. And look at where you are. So it's a completely rigged system for employment, education, medical, and that's why, like, us higher intelligent beings have to be absolute total rebels. We're like Jesus. We're just gonna turn over those change tables, live like we're homeless, go around and show people the true liberty that lives within them. And they don't like that. Oh no, because they're the ones who made the Bible to shut the real Christian movement up. The Christian movement originally was so liberated they had to use secret communication to keep themselves alive from the Romans. Eventually the Romans figured out that they could restructure and organize them and let them become a religion, and how they would control them and what they would not put in their Bible according to the Nicene Creed. And now Christianity is far from the original Christianity talked about in the scriptures. And the scriptures have not been explained for what they truly are historically when they talk about the Anunnaki and the fact that the Anunnaki were here. And that is what they refer to as Elohim or God. And that is what they were encountering in some of the strange stories in the Bible. They want to rewrite history, so they got to control the holy texts. And that's the way that they started, like right at the Nicene Creed, going forward with the kings, and every time the Bible was printed, it's not that the text was extremely altered, it's that the understanding of the alteration was leveraged for political power. And every single time you have less and less intelligence of truth and more of the devil himself. And so, being that the devil lives in the details, you really should pay attention. And if you are a Christian, you're going to feel like you're in the war and that you're being suppressed and discouraged, because all that says it's Christian is not. And it is the age of Laodicea, where people's yeses are not yeses and their no's are not no's, and all that kind of stuff. This wish-wash, going with the wind thing. They've created this historically. They've made decisions, policies, organization, changes, implementation, influence, So it's time to kind of give up on the idea that being part of a religion means being part of a community and means being part of a change. It means that you should start gathering over similar interests and seeing if you have those philosophical things in mind, because it is the interest that will define them. And that is the very definition of how the change will happen in consciousness in the age of Horus, or say like this next age or church age that summates the apocalypse, and so therefore the survival of the apocalypse. And I really just wanted to put that out there because that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And I'm not joking about it. I think it's a serious thing. I've lived so many times to see worlds end, and I think there is a justice to be done in speaking the truth and being truthful with people and being realistic and being grounded when you're trying to do something or give a shit in general. Because I could be misanthropic, narcissistic, psychopathic, antisocial, but I've decided not to be that because I deserve better, and I am better, and I have always been better, and I will be better. So I hope that you will find that in your hearts to keep that connection with the mental, Buddhic, and angelic plane. And remember that the simplest of things, if it follows your principle, means that you are enacting those ethics and you are at war with a lesser sense of consciousness, and that you are therefore preparing when doomsday comes appropriately. So do leverage connection over the internet. Don't judge people for their spiritual practices, but for the nature of their spirituality. Maybe perhaps you do not understand, and your religion or use of spiritual practice in structure and foundation may be different, but it may be completely unified. So don't freaking discount yourself. That is what they're depending on, the control and use of religion for the sake of power, greed, and totalitarianism, really. So let go.